Hi guys, so someone wanted me to read Danger Trail number 1. So this is the first appearance of a minor character named King Faraday. King Faraday appeared in a few things in the other media. His most prolific appearance is probably Justice League New Frontier. He also made appearances in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. And I think Young Justice, he made an appearance. So yeah, he has made really minor appearances in cartoons and that. But he's like a spy type character like James Bond. That's what his character is. But Danger Trail, worldwide adventures in mystery and intrigue. In this blazing issue, Hunters of the Whispering Gallery, Appointment in Paris, 3 Steps to Mr. Sandino, Mystery of the Highland Queen. See, I'm only going to read the first story, which is Hunters of the Whispering Gallery. So, King Faraday. I'd rubbed elbows with sudden death before, and thought I'd never be formally introduced to the old master again. But that was before I heard a murder threat uttered by a pair of faceless shadows, who turned out to be Hunters of the Whispering Gallery. As I blinked my way out of the darkness of the movie palace on 42nd Street, the cute usherette stopped me with the kind of a smile Einstein had no theory for.
"How'd you like the movie, Mr. Faraday?"
Terrific. If you can believe that a beautiful doll gets a wrong connection and overhears a murder plot. In case you overhear anyone plotting to rub out one of our citizens, let me know. I'll be around the information desk at Grand Central Station, learning all about life.
"Mr. Faraday, why aren't you ever around when I'm off duty?"
Crossing 42nd Street during rush hour isn't any more dangerous than fighting a crocodile with a paper bag. But I made it. Disappointing a couple of hackies who whizzed by me so closely I could have lit a match in their fenders. The broth Hollywood stews up, someone overhearing a murder plot. When will they ever do a picture that isn't dreamed of on typewriter DTs? I was still thinking about the movie when my stomach rang a dinner bell. It kept on ringing. So I dodged the crowds in Grand Central Station and headed for the restaurant in the lower level that served oyster stew thick enough to dive into. If the movies want to imitate life, let them stick to boy meets girl without dialogue. At the far end of the corridor, I heard something to remind me that I was in the famous Whispering Gallery of the station, where, by an acoustical freak, you could hear a whisper at the other end of the gallery, without seeing who did the whispering. But I had imagination, didn't I?
"Darling, I've missed you."
"If we don't hurry, we'll miss our train." But the timetable won out over Cupid, as the unseen but heard sweethearts left. But a moment later, their places were taken by 2 strange voices, who dotted their eyes with lead slugs. "Our customer's arriving at the 922 on track 20.
We'll both shoot, so there'll be no chance of missing. Our silencers will muffle any noise."
The unseen whisperers were as casual about their job as a butcher on a busy Saturday.
"Our bird will be wearing a grey hat with a black band."
Very suitable for a funeral. His own funeral. I bucked my way through the crowds to get to the other end of the corridor. I wanted to get a good look at the faces which belonged to the murderous whisperers. I pictured them as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I must try living on a desert island someday to give my elbows a rest. But when I got to the other end of the Whispering Gallery, where the crime carpenters had planned a custom-built box for some guy sporting a gray hat with a black band, gone. Not even an echo left. I looked about me at the countless faces which bobbed past me like corks on the water. The only way to find that pair is to hold an audition, but I haven't the time. Sure, I looked for them, tried to fit voices and faces together, but it was like trying to paste a jigsaw puzzle on thin air. 922, track 20. Silencers will muffle any noise. Gray hat with a black band. Funeral. 9:15. 7 minutes more. It wasn't until I got down to track 20 that I realized that I overheard a murder plot, just like the doll had in the movies. Only this time the shooting wouldn't be done on celluloid. Somewhere in that train is Gray Hat. I gotta find him before his welcoming committee turns his welcome into a farewell. The next 10 minutes while the train unloaded convinced me that I'd have to be a centipede to stop all the men wearing gray hats with black bands. That movie. I probably imagined that conversation, and I'm dreaming up a double feature. Just then I saw a honey who looked like Venus de Milo with arms, getting off the last car, which was at the far end of the platform, and she was wearing a gray hat with a black band. I automatically assumed that those whispering hoods were gunning for a man. Could I be wrong? My question was answered by a voice which softly called the doll from inside the door or car she had just left. "Miss Stevens, you left the bag."
Huh?
The voice was the voice of death for the dreamboat, or it might have been, if I had stopped to introduce myself. "Down! That police coughing comes from a couple of silencers." From my worm's eye view on the platform floor, I glanced into the car and saw a couple of pairs of startled legs.
"Who's he? Police?" "What's the difference? A bullet will change him into an epitaph."
While the killers are spending the next moment deciding what was most appropriate to carve on my tombstone, I tackled them low and hard. If my old coach saw me now, he wouldn't have kept me on the bench during the game with Notre Dame. Those triggermen certainly loved their work. No sooner did they hit the floor than they bounced up again, with murder in their eyes, and the means to do it in their hands. "Mate like a train and back up, beautiful. They're covering the platform." We plunged into the gleaming maze of tracks, which unreeled in the tunnel under Park Avenue. "Those boys want you awful bad. Did you steal their doll or something?"
I haven't the faintest idea.
But we got the idea, underlined with lead, when we paused for a second to catch our breath after running endlessly.
They're getting closer.
Check. And we're beautiful targets, whether we stay here or go on. Suddenly the rails hummed, and the rumble of the wheels of an approaching train started turning little wheels in my own head.
Where are we going?
To play tag with a train. We ran across the tracks. Our frantic friends did the same. I expected them to. In fact, I was banking on it. Now as they stalked us, confident they had trapped us, I grabbed the girl at my side and scrambled back across the tracks with her, just as the train roared down on us. I thought the most we'd be able to get was a lead on the homicidal hounds baying for our blood. by keeping the train in between us while we ran for an exit. But we didn't need the lead. Unable to bear the thought of parting with our company, the hoods recklessly started across the tracks after us. They were 6 inches and 2 lives too late. "Better not look!"
Oh!
Crime lays a heavy hand on criminals. In this case, heavy enough to wholly erase them from the earth. Also, unfortunately, any clues they might have shed on their murder attempt. Nor could the police uncover anything questioning Julie Stevens or me.
King, how would you thank someone who just saved your life? Especially if you had $850,000 to do with it.
I just kiss him goodbye, Julie.
Hello?
Julie must have been in possession of a secret that was TNT. But the tough part was that she didn't even know what it was. I had to find out.
I'll expect you at my house tomorrow night, King. Any time after 8. I want to know all about you. We'll have a nice chat, all by ourselves.
Fine. Having a nice private talk with Julie that night was as simple as getting change for $1 at Fort Knox. Without the dollar. Looking at that glamour puss, no one could imagine that 24 hours ago, 2 hoods were doing their best to earn their M's for murder, with her as the opposing team. There were a lot of fine leather-covered books in Julie's library, but the one which caught my attention was a scrapbook. It started out with the usual shot of Julie as a baby, on a rug. Except with her, the rug was mink. It showed her as a schoolgirl in pigtails, and as a Deb with her hair up. There were shots of her traveling in Europe before the war, in London, Paris, skiing in the Alps, hiking in the Black Forest, dancing at a Bavarian inn. I wonder. I didn't have long to wonder. The chill of the gun muzzle against me was colder than the kiss of death.
Get up, quick, and don't turn around, or this gun will go off.
The man behind the gun prodded me to the big window at the other end of the library, and before I could turn around to get a glimpse of him,
"Fool!"
I'll bet this joker who tried to introduce me to a new and speedy way of exiting from the house and the world must have felt pretty foolish for forgetting that underneath the library window was not a concrete walk, but... A few minutes later, the pool became crowded with party guests, playing Follow the Leader, as...
That was a wonderful idea, King. Just the thing we needed to liven up the party. Now climb up out of there. I've suits for everyone.
I learned quick changes in the paratroops a couple of years ago. That's why I was back at the pool for it first. I listened in on a lot of conversations, hoping to spot the gentleman who wanted to make a seagull of me, sans wings. When I got nowhere, I climbed to the high diving board, where I could get a bird's eye view of everything that was happening, or might happen.
Shall we make the dive a duet, King?
Not me. I'm scared of death of heights. Go ahead, Angel. She dove off as gracefully as space itself was reserved for her exclusive use. The crowd paid no attention to her, with a million things going on at once. But when moments passed and she didn't reappear, she's not going to come up unless she's learned to breathe underwater. It was a good thing for Julie that I kept my eye on her. Her limp form told the story. Her dive was meant to end in death. Whoever had sent the 2 late killers after her at the station, and had coaxed me to make a quick exit through the library window, had probably flavored her coffee with something stronger than sugar. Julie hadn't been under long enough to be seriously hurt, but she was dazed enough to mutter she must have accidentally hit her head on the pool floor.
Go on with the party. I'll be back in a few minutes. As soon as I'm rested.
But when I set Julie down inside the house, she let me know she knew what the score was. And I let her know that I knew what the total might add up to.
It wasn't an accident. Was it, King?
No, honey. Someone's bent on making you a pigeon. A dead pigeon. I told her to meet me in the library as soon as she and I changed. We got there about the same time, but when I opened the book of snapshots before her mystified gaze, it's gone.
What's gone, King?
The snapshot of you dancing with a nice, clean-cut Bavarian boy before the war. And boy, you became Martin Vorman, Hitler's #1 hatchet man. The same Vorman who has been unsuccessfully hunted for his war crimes, because no one in the world is alive to identify him. No one but a girl who once danced with him, and is a snapshot of him. A snapshot that is a noose around his neck.
Is this the snapshot?
The man in the armchair held the snapshot with one hand, and a gun in the other. Your voice! You're the Joker who pushed me through the window.
Wait, now I remember. That's the voice of the man I danced with at that inn in Bavaria. And his name is...
Yes, Martin Vorman. Vorman kept his gun in his pocket pointed at us, and led us through a side exit. We got into a car outside. As I poured on the gas, I toyed with the idea of jamming on the brakes suddenly, but I couldn't take the chance with Julie at my side.
Turn left at the next crossroads, then left again onto the small landing field.
I got the craziest feeling I've seen this hot rod's face before, but it's not the Vorman of the snapshot. There were 2 caretakers in the field. The first one didn't know what hit him, but the second was suspicious and tough. And my paranoid passenger had to empty his gun to finish him. Why, you gun-crazy ghoul! Before I could reach him, he reversed the butt and swung hard, and it seemed as if I had stepped onto the elevator shaft at the top of the Empire State Building, when the elevator wasn't there. On my way to the bottom of the shaft about 100 floors below, I suddenly remembered where I'd last seen his face. Then I blacked out. When I came to, I found Julie shaking me.
When he found out he was out of bullets, he ran to the plane.
We can't let him escape.
I shoved Julie out of the car, put my foot down on the gas pedal, and sent the car rocketing over the field.
King, you can't stop a plane.
The only plane that can take off without taxing is an autogyro, and Vorman was flying a Piper Cub. I gotta prevent him from getting up enough ground to speed to be airborne. Every time he tried to taxi off the field, I made a pass at him, forcing him to turn and start all over again, until suddenly, instead of turning, he poured on the gas and headed straight for me. He was going to make me turn aside, and when I did, he'd be free to take off. I could see that whirling propeller slashing through the air straight at me. I jammed down the gas pedal, and when the car catapulted ahead, under the extra flush of gas, I took off. For the second time that night, I took a quick trip to nowhere and back, but it was a shorter trip than the one taken by the killer in the now flaming plane.
But King, He sounded like the man I danced with, but he didn't look like him. He must have disguised himself.
Yes, honey. Vorman did disguise himself. In a disguise so simple that I didn't recognize it, until I remembered the face of the other man in the snapshot. The man whom Vorman killed, then impersonated. The concertina player at the dance.
King, how can I reward someone who's just saved my life? Especially when I have $850,000 to spare.
It was tough turning down all that Fort Knox confetti. It would have entangled my feet and prevented me from having my next adventure. As you'll see in the September-October issue of Danger Trails. So that's the end of that story. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be appreciated. If you have any requests you want me to do, just let me know down in the comments. And I'll tell you the date where I can get the requests done. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys later.